the defense. New tonight on our news live at 7, the Prime Minister defends a contractor behind an incomplete roof that collapsed at a local high school. Some shocking revelations straight ahead. And search and rescue efforts underway to find a missing aircraft and pilot that disappeared off the radar during a flight from Fort Lauderdale to Eleuthera. Investigators say the plane was seen going down in waters off Andros. Plus, found dead on the beach. A man suffering from what appears to be shark bites is pulled from waters at Saunders Beach this morning. Investigators now warning beachgoers to not go alone. Then in our news at 7:30, manslaughter by negligence. The parents of a 2-year-old face a judge after a recent car ride ended in his death. Our news live at 7 starts right now. Welcome to our news live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Candino Knowles. The Prime Minister on the defense, calling a contractor behind an incomplete roof that collapsed during summer repairs at RM Bailey a master builder, but not before also admitting only an oral contract was in place. We'll get to the full story in just a bit, but we are watching multiple new developments in the tropics as we are approaching the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. In the Weather Center now is meteorologist Greg Thompson. Now, Greg, I know that you've been following this all day. What are we seeing? I know that it's been 5 systems since Friday.
Yeah, 5 actually areas that we were watching. 3 of them were named within 24 hours. That's since yesterday. Yeah. And so it's quieted down a little bit, but we still have concerns about a system that's going to be approaching the Turks and Caicos Islands. That's Franklin. But 2 of the systems, sure. Emily is basically post-tropical, and Gert, which is just to the east of the Leeward Islands, that one will become post-tropical. So it's going to quiet down a little bit, but we still have quite a bit of activity out there in the tropics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get to it. Right now, we're still tracking a couple of systems. There's, as I mentioned, Franklin is the major concern for us. Gert is just to the northeast of the northern Leeward Islands. That will continue to move towards the northwest actually. And that's expected to become post-tropical within another 24 hours. Emily, this blob that you see just in the center to the north of, center of the screen, that is what's left of Emily. And then we are tracking another tropical wave that came off of Africa. That has a high potential, about 70% for formation over the next couple of days. So we'll continue to watch that one. That one will continue to track towards the north and west. But Gert, as I mentioned, is still out there, just approaching the northern Leeward Islands. Some showers disorganized with its system, but that basically will be no problem for us. We are all tracking now Franklin. Franklin is still a tropical storm with gaining some strength. Lost some of its convection earlier today, but the track is now taking more towards the north, and that will bring it across Hispaniola over the next couple of days. So we have an alert posted for the Turks and Caicos Islands, and we're asking residents in the southeast Bahamas to continue to monitor the system. Franklin is going to continue to track towards west. By Tuesday, we expect the system to be approaching the south coast of Hispaniola. It's expected to interact with the mountain ranges across there, and then once it emerges off the north coast, it's going to come very close to the Turks and Caicos Islands. Still is a weak tropical storm, likely, but it's expected to enter some very warm waters, and there's a potential for this system to continue to strengthen. So Turks and Caicos Islands, you are on the tropical storm watch, which means tropical storm conditions possible within 48 hours. Southeast Bahamas, that's Inagua, Meguana, Acklins, and Cricket Island. We're asking residents down there to continue to monitor the progress of the system as it continues to track towards the north and approach you. And then, of course, we have another system in the Atlantic, that tropical wave that moved through the Gulf of Mexico, that moved through the Bahamas over the weekend. That has the potential now to form into a tropical depression. Good thing about this system is it's going to quickly move towards the west-northwest and enter Texas coast over the next, 2 days, and that's going to limit its chances for formation into anything strong. So the tropics is very busy right now, and as I like to say, this is the time now for you to get your hurricane preparedness in place, because we are starting to see activity, and it is approaching the peak of the season. Candino?
Yeah, all right, Greg. So Franklin is the one to watch. And to your point, I mean, we're already, just a week away from the peak of the season?
Yeah, last week of August and the first week of September 10th being around the peak, between the 10th and the 12th being the peak, and then we get a little bit of a lull, and then we get another peak sometime in October. But yeah, end of August, September, get your hurricane plans ready because it's getting very busy out there right now.
For sure. All right, thanks a lot, Greg. So we'll hear back from you a little bit later on. And a little later, we're also hearing from the Disaster Reconstruction Authority chairman, who says some missing assets have been recovered. We'll tell you about that. But now to the contractor behind an incomplete roof that collapsed during summer repairs at R. Bailey Senior High. It's put the Prime Minister on the defense. As Joshua Williams tells us, Davis also admitting there was no formal contract for the work, while calling the contractor in question a master builder.
A roof did not collapse. Some trusses.
A roof that was being pitched.
No. See the roof. Some of the trusses collapsed.
The Ministry of Works released a statement on Friday acknowledging that the lunch pavilion roof at the school collapsed on August 9th. The statement said employees of the general contractor, either in an effort to take down some of the members or adjust the members, removed some of the bracing, making the system unstable and causing a collapse of the trusses. It also noted that the contractor did not have all risk and liability insurance. And get this, there was also no formal written contract. Prime Minister Philip Davis had this to say.
He had a contract. The question is whether it's a written contract or an oral contract. He, in fact, had a contract. It was to be reduced to writing, and in fact, the insurance. I understand that the contractor decided he will self-insure until all of the dots and the I's have been crossed, which is not unacceptable. You could you could self-insure yourself. He takes the risk.
Davis also blasting the press for what he describes as turning an incident into a controversy.
I have confidence in this contractor. He has done work for many years for the Ministry of Works. And not just for our administration, just to dispel any sort of favoritism that this is some PLP who is incompetent. He did much work for the F&M, and for the press to have carried the story in such a way to suggest that he was incompetent and that there was some major scandal. It's really troubling.
The contractor is Anthony Roker, CEO of A&M Construction.
As he said, we take full responsibility of what had happened. And I want the public to know that I'm a 4-decade building contractor, and I build places for both governments.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Joshua. And now to a story we first brought you yesterday, the search for a missing aircraft and pilot that disappeared off the radar during a flight from Fort Lauderdale to Eleuthera. Police say there are reports of a plane fitting its description crashing in waters near Andros. They say around 3 p.m. Saturday. Nicholstown Police Station received reports a white C-402 aircraft with a black tail decorated with the cursive initials PJ was observed descending rapidly into the water. The plane and pilot went down around 100 miles off the coast of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Search and rescue efforts currently underway on the Andros coastline near Red Bay, Low Sound, Morgan's Bluff, and Nicholstown. This is certainly a story we are continuing to follow. And the body of a man was pulled out of waters at Saunders Beach this morning with what police say they believe are shark bites on his left arm and ear. Police say they believe the body was in the water for at least up to 8 hours before being found. Press Liaison Officer Chief Superintendent Kristen Skipping says they got the call around 7 o'clock this morning.
Officers responded and on arrival discovered the male partially submerged in the waters in a swim trunk on bareback. The male was retrieved by the officers along with our community partners who were here on the beach. And once he was brought ashore, it was observed that the male, who appears to be in his early 20s, had significant injuries to his left arm. And he also had injuries to his ear.
Old Skippings had this advice for beachgoers.
If you must swim, bring a family member with you. Have someone here with you. At any given point in time, something can go wrong. And so to minimize losing a life or causing any significant injuries to anyone, I want to encourage you to, when you come to the beach, bring family members or bring someone along with you who can assist you in the event of an emergency. And then to those beachgoers who frequent the beach, Even though you're out here catching the cool breeze or swimming, I want you to also pay attention to other beach goers.
The Disaster Reconstruction Authority's chairman, Alex Dorr, says some of those DRA assets that were missing have been found in Abaco. The issue of missing assets first surfaced last October, then again in January, when Storr revealed approximately $250,000 worth of missing items were never recovered.
We were able to locate some 2 forklifts and other equipment about a month ago in a warehouse in Cooperstown. And so we're still actively looking, trying to locate these materials, and as we find them, we take them back.
And Storr says despite this, the authority still has trouble finding other missing assets.
There are still, from that list of items, outstanding items, and so we're actively pursuing and finding out. From taking over, I was asking people to come in if they had information or they were in possession of material. It seems that we have to go out and find it before we can recover these items. Prisons aren't bringing them to us.
Still to come on our news, a historic win. The Bahamas' men's national basketball team makes history last night for a second straight win against Argentina. The win putting the team a step closer to the Olympics. But first, a mother is accused of injuring her preteen in an at-home abortion. And in tonight's Work in Progress segment, we learned that 85% of roads not up to standard when Our News returns. A mother is being accused of injuring her 11-year-old daughter while performing an abortion at home. The 40-year-old allegedly gave her daughter medicine to induce a miscarriage after learning she was pregnant. Meanwhile, the mother's 45-year-old boyfriend is accused of sexually abusing the girl. Prosecutors say that abuse began in April 2002 when the girl was 10 and continued until May 2023 when she turned 11. Their names have been withheld to protect the identity of the minor. The man is charged with 5 counts of unlawful sexual intercourse with a dependent. The mother is charged with aggravated causing harm, abortion, and failing to report the sexual abuse of a minor. The aggravated causing harm and abortion allegedly took place between August 11th and 12th. The mother allegedly failed to report the sexual abuse of her child between July 1st this year and August 11th. They were not required to enter pleas when they appeared before Senior Magistrate Shaka Serville. Bail was denied. They're expected to be indicted on January 15th. Well, it's no secret that roads here in New Providence are not up to standard, and that's why our Work in Progress segment has put much focus on the topic. Tonight, Atalia Hall speaks with a senior civil engineer in the Ministry of Works who's detailing some of the issues and a potential plan for the way forward.
For decades, residents in New Providence have been calling for better roads. Civil engineer in the Ministry of Works, Francis Clark, says New Providence has 890 miles of roadways, and 85% of the existing roads do not meet 21st century standards. It's an issue that's not lost on works officials. Clark sharing some of the progress they've recently made.
We've constructed about 15% of our roads, but does meet 21st century standards. And then those roads were constructed between 2004 and 2013. And then most recently, we have constructed Village Road project, which is generally substantially completed, which is meeting the 21st century standards.
As for what's needed going forward,
civilized road and to preserve the pavement as much as possible.
He says he recently wrote a report to the minister.
Perhaps we need to increase our resources so that we can attend to these remaining roads. Our current road paving crews, which is Bahamas, has 2 crews, and their crews are inadequate. So we probably need a 3rd crew or hire private contractors to help us to pave the rest of the roads.
Reporting for Work in Progress for Our News, I'm Atalia Hall.
All right, thanks a lot, Atalia. And now to some big news for the country, as the Bahamas' men's national basketball team made history last night, beating Argentina for a 2nd straight time during the FIBA pre-Olympic qualifying tournament. The Bahamas won 82-75, led by Eric Gordon, who had 27 points. The win puts the Bahamas one step closer to qualifying for the Olympics in Paris next year. The team will play again next July. For more on this, be sure and stay tuned for Our News at 7:30. Tage Adderley has a full recap. When Our News comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as a UK judge sentences a serial killer nurse to life in prison. Plus, South Carolina prepares for more flooding as Tropical Storm Hillary makes landfall. And the UN condemns recent gang attacks in Haiti, what the Human Rights Office is calling for when Our News returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. Britain's most prolific serial child killer in modern times, Nurse Lucy Letby, will spend the rest of her life behind bars for murdering 7 newborn babies and trying to kill another 6. A judge at Manchester Crown Court ordered her life imprisonment on Monday. The 33-year-old murdered the 5 baby boys and 2 baby girls at the neonatal unit of Countess of Chester Hospital in northern England over 13 months from 2015, injecting the infants with insulin or air or force-feeding them milk.
Lucy Letby, on each of the 7 offences of murder and the 7 offences of attempted murder, I sentence you to imprisonment for life. Because the seriousness of your offences is exceptionally high, I direct that the early release provisions do not apply. This was a cruel, calculated, and cynical campaign of child murder involving the smallest and most vulnerable of children, knowing that your actions were causing significant physical suffering and would cause untold mental suffering.
Tropical storm Hillary made its historic arrival in California on Sunday, with forecasters warning of possible catastrophic flooding after the system pummeled Mexico's Baja California peninsula with heavy rains. 1 person died in Mexico amid reports of flash flooding, where some roads were swept away, and images on social media showed raging torrents gushing down city streets that been turned over into rivers.
It's quite amazing. I've never seen anything like this. And the tropical storm hasn't even hit us yet. And the wash is up. I was here at 1 o'clock today, and there was nothing here. There's no water flowing. 3 o'clock, a little bit more. And it's amazing. I love weather. Let's just hope people are safe.
Well, the main thing is you don't want to drive through water that you can't see the road on.
Bit unprecedented. We've had storms before, but never anything quite this windy and rainy at the same time. I have a friend who just saw a 60-foot carport get blown off of his neighbor's house and carried 4 houses up.
British police on Monday said it will take no further action following an investigation into an alleged cash for honor scandal linked to one of King Charles III's charities. A Sunday Times investigation published in 2021 alleged the then chief executive of the charity, Michael Fawcett, helped nominate a Saudi businessman for an honorary Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire title. The force said on Monday that after careful consideration, the Met has concluded that no further action will be taken. And finally, UN human rights officials denouncing over the weekend what they called the extreme brutality of gangs in Haiti, with thousands fleeing several neighborhoods in the country's capital this week amid a surge in violence. Kenyan media reporting the killings have intensified in recent weeks as a reconnaissance mission from Kenya, composed of nearly a dozen senior police officers, was expected to arrive in Haiti on Friday.
Specialized police units were eventually deployed on the 15th of August, and they forced the gangs out of the immediate area. However, the situation remains extremely insecure as the police subsequently withdrew and gang members are still operating in the surrounding areas. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, who visited Haiti in February this year, calls for urgent action to be taken on the UN Secretary-General's appeal for a non-United Nations multinational force to support the Haitian police in addressing the grave security situation and in restoring the rule of law in strict compliance with international human rights norms and standards.
Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was August 21st. Then, in our news at 7:30, news of a possible cabinet reshuffle. The Prime Minister talks about the way forward. And later, parents of a 2-year-old who died after a recent car ride charged with manslaughter.
Don't spend
Our News series, Our Bahamians, brought to you by the Bahamas Independence Secretariat, continues tonight with a spotlight on former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis. Take a look. The Honorable Dr. Hubert Alexander Minnis was sworn in on May 11, 2017, as the fourth Prime Minister in an independent Bahamas, having been elected to the office by an overwhelming majority. 35 of the 39 seats in the House of Assembly went to his Free National Movement Party that year. But Dr. Minnis's political career began well before he ascended to the high office, 10 years to be exact. He was first elected as Member of Parliament for the renamed Killarney constituency in 2007 and was re-elected in the 2012 and 2017 general elections and became leader of the Free National Movement and leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition in 2012. Dr. Minnis was born in Baintown, Nassau, to Rosalie North and Randolph Minnis on April 16, 1954. He obtained his early education at Our Lady's Primary and Western Junior Schools and his secondary education at St. Augustine's College, where he graduated in 1971. He continued his tertiary education at University of Minnesota in Minneapolis and the University of the West Indies in Jamaica. Dr. Minnis completed his specialized studies in obstetrics and gynecology in London in 1985 and is a member and a fellow of the Royal College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Dr. Minnis served as the Minister of Health from 2007 to 2012 and also served as President of the Medical Association, a member of the government-appointed Medical Council, Chairman of the Hotel Corporation, Deputy Chief of Staff at Princess Margaret Hospital, and a consultant and head of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology. But during his term as leader, Dr. Minnis shouldered two of the country's most catastrophic disasters, first with Hurricane Dorian in 2019, and months later in 2020, the onset of the worst global health crisis in 100 years, COVID-19. Dr. Minnis demitted office on September 17, 2021, after a landslide victory for the PLP. The final seat count was 32-7. All right, it's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was August 21st, including the birth of our former leader, Perry Christie. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history in 1734, James Scott became Speaker of the House of Assembly. He was the second person to serve in the office. Then, over 200 years later, in 1943, Perry Gladstone Christie was born in Nassau. Christie became the third Prime Minister in an independent Bahamas on May 3, 2002. In 2007, Christie's Progressive Liberal Party was defeated by the Free National Movement, and Christie became leader of the official opposition. He went on to become Prime Minister once again in May 2012. On May 10, 2017, the PLP was defeated, and Christie lost his seat in Centerville after representing the constituency for 40 consecutive years. 5 days later, on May 15, Christie stepped down as leader of the PLP. He is an avid junkaneur and is a member of the Valley Boys. Then, 49 years after Christie's birth, in 1992, Hubert Alexander Ingram was sworn in as Prime Minister, becoming the second head of government of an independent Bahamas. It would be his first of 3 terms. He served from 1992 to 2002, then again from 2007 to 2012. As leader of the Free National Movement, he led the party to an election victory on August 19, 1992, and was chosen to become Prime Minister. Fast forward to 2019. The union representing junior doctors threatened to shut down Princess Margaret Hospital as 400 members on New Providence and Grand Bahama went on strike. The industrial action came 8 months after doctors voted to strike over an unresolved issue with holiday pay, among other things.
This should never be the case. Physicians should never have to go to this extent because everyone knows that we are critical. We understand that our presence is critical. It's our last resort.
So you see this big building here? We all will shut PMH down. And they got concerns all around here. Our workers here are going through a very stressful time.
And finally in 2022 was the inaugural Dragon Boat Race Championships.
We really hope we can do more to help facilitate the development of this oldest and most popular cultural tradition in China, having a history of more than 2,000 years.
All right, and as you just learned there, it's former Prime Minister Perry Christie's birthday, 80 years and still standing. He was surrounded today by government officials and PLP supporters who gathered at PLP headquarters to celebrate him. Several cabinet ministers, along with Prime Minister Philip Davis, paid tribute to the former leader. Christie spending the afternoon storytelling, reflecting on the good times.
I want to remind myself that God has granted me a favor that Cecil Wallace Whitfield, who died at 60, Lyndon Pinling, who died at 70, Milo Butler, 72. But God granted me truly a privilege.
Right, to watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, you can visit ournews.bs. That's going to do it for us in News at 7. Joining us now is Natalia Hall with the latest headlines. Natalia, the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, 80 years strong.
Yes, I can only hope.
Right?
Wish and pray.
Exactly.
You know, but it's great to see that, and the cake looks great.
Exactly. And happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
To the former Prime Minister.
All right, thanks so much, Ken. Well, news of a possible cabinet reshuffle. The Prime Minister talks about the way forward, and parents of a 2-year-old who died after a recent car ride charged with manslaughter. Here are your latest headlines. Charged first tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. The parents of a 2-year-old officially charged in connection with his death. We have details from inside the courtroom. Also, a well-known advocate preparing to run in the next general election. We'll tell you which seat she's vying for and her timely platform. Plus distractions. Those comments coming from the education minister, who says there are no plans to add an LGBTQ plus curriculum in the public schools, and later, no time left. A BPL union executive says he believes their concerns are falling on deaf ears. We'll tell you all about the recent end to a 30-day ultimatum when Our News Live at 7:30 returns.
Doctors Hospital is reimagined primary care. We've invested to improve our health system, ensuring that accessible, affordable, world-class clinical care is closer to you. Your relationship with a primary care provider shapes the foundation of your overall health. Our new, modern primary care facilities are where critical diagnosis and true personalized treatment begin. With locations across New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Exuma, we invite you to experience the Doctors Hospital difference. Book your next appointment at clinics.doctorshos.com.
If new, Heineken Silver was a riveting Viking saga.
Lars the 12th. Your family tortured my first wife and stole my second favorite goat. Now you want to marry my daughter. Okay.
All the taste, no bitter endings. Smooth, fresh, silver.
Welcome to Our News, and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. All eyes on the tropics. This has some 5 systems developed over the past few days as we are now approaching the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. Now, 3 of those 5 storms were named in the past 24 hours, which forecasters are calling unusual. Meteorologist Greg Thompson, who gets us started tonight, is live in the Weather Center. Greg, we understand that Tropical Storm Franklin, which formed on Sunday, is now a concern for this region.
Yeah, Franklin is posing a bit of a threat or a problem for the Turks and the Caicos Islands Islands, we have alerts being issued for the Turks and Caicos, and possibly, well, not possibly, but we're asking residents in the southeast Bahamas to continue to watch the system as it's still tracking towards the north, and it's eventually going to come very close to the southeast Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands. So alert number 4 was issued. There's another alert that will be issued at 9 p.m. Franklin is basically a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm, and it's going to continue to track towards the slightly west-northwest, then make that sharp turn towards the north and cross the Hispaniola over the next 24 to 36 hours. But by Wednesday, we expect that system to be across the that's the Hispaniola. Taking a quick look there. Wednesday morning, it's crossing Hispaniola, should emerge into the waters just to the north of Hispaniola by Thursday, late Wednesday afternoon and Thursday. Winds will be picking up. We expect some showers and some thunderstorm activity. Rainfall amounts could be anywhere from 1 to 2 inches and up to isolated 4 to 5, maybe even up to 6 inches, but confined mainly to the Turks and Caicos Islands and possibly Nagua as well as the Meguan area. But this system is basically just blew up in the Caribbean overnight yesterday. And then, of course, if you notice, just to the east of the Leeward Islands, there's Gert. So the tropics, very active right now. We will continue to monitor the system. We're asking residents across the southeast Bahamas and again the Turks and Caicos Islands to continue to monitor the progress of the system over the next 24 to 48 hours. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Greg. And of course, this is something, as you said, that we will continue to follow. Well, parents of a 2-year-old charged in connection with his death. Prosecutors say 23-year-old DeMargio Thurston and 20-year-old Sabrina Henry are responsible for the death of their son Jeremiah Thurston on August 12th. On the day in question, the toddler was found unresponsive while hanging out of the window of his parents' car. Thurston and Henry did not have to plead to a charge of manslaughter by negligence when they stood before Acting Chief Magistrate Roberto Reckley. They were remanded into custody overnight and will return to court on Tuesday for a bail hearing. Advocate and president of Rise Bahamas, Tennille Burrows, announcing her independent candidacy for the next general election. She's contesting the Elizabeth constituency seat. Burrows ran in 2017 and says she believes that the hearts and minds of Bahamians are now ready to join with advocates and activists. She says her present demand to the government is increased penalties for those that commit crimes against children.
Essentially would mean that instead of someone getting a 4-year sentence for raping and impregnating a 14-year-old girl, they would receive at least a minimum of 20, 30 years to life, because in actuality, the maximum sentence for raping a child or statutory rape or even an adult person is a life sentence imprisonment.
Amid ongoing talks about a possible cabinet reshuffle, Prime Minister Philip Davis says there's been talks about the way forward. Now, on August 14, Governor General Sir Cornelius Smith, acting on the advice of the Prime Minister, prorogued Parliament. The new session will begin on October 4th. Currently, Davis's cabinet is made up of 21 members. The Prime Minister was asked if there will be a reshuffling of his cabinet. This was his response.
Cabinet is an institution that carries with it collective responsibility. Where a person is in that cabinet does not take away from that. It does not take away from that. So that we have collective responsibility. We are at just near the halfway. I call this my halfway point. Before we move into what I call election mode, and we are thinking of what we are talking together as ministers to determine how best each one of us may better serve the new way forward.
Education Minister Glenys Hannah Martin shooting down rumors that LGBTQ+ curriculum will be added to the public school education. Hannah Martin was responding to a reporter who asked her about a religious leader threatening to sue the ministry if it's taught in schools across the country.
We have a curriculum, and the curriculum is focusing on literacy, numeracy, helping our young people to be articulate, to help them have the grounding in the subject matter. We have a new history text. These are things we celebrate. The distractions and the erroneous distractions are not helpful.
She's also addressing the rumors that continue to circulate.
We have to query how it is that something like that should incite us to these types of extremes, unverified, unsupported, and untrue.
Still to come on our news, time is up. A BPL union chief speaks up as a 30-day ultimatum for government to address a slew of issues has ended. And as all systems go for Royal Caribbean International after getting the green light to develop its $100 million project on Paradise Island. Plus, class is back in session in just a matter of days, but just before the bell rings, our Jamila Mizik tells you what's trending in the latest back-to-school gear when our news returns. Tonight, the Bahamas Electrical Workers Union president is speaking out regarding a slew of health and safety issues plaguing workers at Bahamas Power and Light. BEWU President Kyle Wilson telling Our News today that for 30 days the union has been agitating and asking for help for workers.
Persons are in spaces where water is pouring out into the workspace just like they're inside, just like they're outside. And you're talking about thousands and thousands of volts of electricity above and beneath them. Water and electricity don't mix. That's just common knowledge. And so to see the leaders of the company looking at the conditions that they're putting persons in that can result in them not returning home to their families. I'm talking about deadly conditions, and we're asking for hazardous pay. We're asking for proper safety in the workplace. We're asking for repairs to these issues.
Royal Caribbean International has gotten the green light from the Department of Environmental Protection and Planning for the development of its $100 million development on Paradise Island. In a letter to RCI Senior Investment Manager for Private Destinations, Jason Mays, DEPP Director Dr. Rihanna Neely-Murphy said RCI has substantively addressed the environmental concerns surrounding the project and can move forward with the submission of its environmental management plan. Now, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism Chester Cooper says he's pleased by the news.
I'm delighted to hear that the government has advanced the process to a point where DEPP has been able to look at all of the environmental concerns and have them addressed appropriately.
To school season, and that means youngsters will return to the classroom soon, but not before they're dressed for success. Our Jamila Mizik tells us what's trending for this back-to-school year. Let's take a look.
This past weekend, parents have been out and about taking advantage of the VAT holiday on back-to-school items, ensuring that their little ones are equipped for the new term. But before heading back to class, there are some essentials that they just can't go without. Sales clerk at Sandy's Debbie Ann Jones says this year uniforms remain their #1 seller. And as for school bags, she says,
well, the characters is the first ones to sell, especially the pull bags. They're the first one to go. And we have Toto's lunch bag and the school bag matching, and they were a big seller for this year.
But what about footwear? Over at John's Shoe Store, they've been getting youngsters ready for back to school for decades. General Manager John Cathapoulis tells us this year has been business as usual.
The standard, black and brown, is not much variation, but if you wanted to look behind, we have Sperry's, we've got Hush Puppies, we have some Clark styles as well, the Nike bags, all the things that kids like to have on the first day of school to make them feel good and confident to start the new year.
And then there's athletic wear. Sales associate at the Athlete's Foot, Kershawn Smith, shows us what's trending this year.
Something solid, breathable, easy for the kids to access, with straps so they could be, comfortable as well as they run around.
As for the hottest sellers, he says, the spray ground bags and...
Everybody's been asking for Air Force, and Air Force is the go-to back-to-school shoe, so black Air Force I'd recommend, for sure.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
80 years strong, former Prime Minister Perry Christie celebrating his birthday today. We feature him in the Our Bahamian segment when Our News continues.
The Bahamas makes history on the court while dominating in the pool over the weekend. You definitely don't want to miss this. Our Sports is coming up next.
Light showers around New Providence, keeping temperatures relatively cool today, but all eyes are still on the tropics. Greg is back with your extended forecast when Our News returns. Stay with us.
Today's sports update is sponsored by Michelob Ultra, distributed in the Bahamas by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
This is our news. Welcome back. The Bahamas basketball team records an historic win in Argentina, and the Bahamas swim team dominates the pool at the Goodwill Games in Jamaica. Here's Tej Ali with a check on sports. Tej?
Thanks, Italia. It's a great day to be a Bahamian sports fan. The Bahamas national basketball team recorded the biggest win in its history last night, beating Argentina on their home court to win the FIBA pre-Olympic qualifying tournament. The Bahamas men's national basketball team emerged victorious in the FIBA pre-Olympic qualifying tournament, beating host country Argentina last night 82-75. The boys from the 242 pulled out a tight back-and-forth matchup against a savvy squad filled with top-tier pros and NBA veterans thanks to the timely shooting of Eric Gordon, who had 27 points, including a clutch step-back three to put the game away with 20 seconds left.
Man, it means a lot. It's great to do this for the Bahamas. You know, my mom's born and raised there, and I'm just glad that we get to advance with these guys. We got a great group of guys here, and I've been loving it.
Gordon's son's teammate DeAndre Ayton was arguably the Bahamas' second best player. He recorded 10 points and had a monster night on the boards with 21 rebounds. Buddy Hield added 15 points and Travis Munnings had 16. This is the most significant win in Bahamas basketball history. The team will now head to the FIBA Olympic qualifier. If they finish in the top three there, then it's on to Paris for the 2024 Olympics. Team Bahamas dominated in the pool as well, winning the Goodwill Games in Jamaica after a fourth-place finish last year. Our Sasha Lightburn...
So they said, Coach, if we win, when you jump off the highest point of the diamond well, and I said, yes, I will.
And the kids did just that, winning in grand style.
I feel amazing, you know. Sorry to Jamaica, we have to beat them, but that's how it is. You know, we came here for the championship, and, you know, we put in the work. We really, really wanted it. From session one, we were making a point. You know, we were going straight to the top.
Team Bahamas won the Goodwill Games in Jamaica, beating host country, Jamaica, who placed second, followed by Trinidad and Tobago in third.
We trained hard, the turn perform, whatever obstacles they had, the less rest, the hot sun, they accomplished it all.
We came down here on a mission, and this was a successful mission.
The children swim very good, the war, the whole team is very good.
Here are team captains Bianca Johnson, Grace Farrington, Ayrton Monker, and Tristan Ferguson.
It feels so amazing to just know that I was a part of our big win, and I'm just so happy and so thankful.
I'm really glad that I was able to be a part of and to lead this team to victory.
This team has done many things, great things, records broken, plenty goals, plenty points for Team Bahamas.
I know each person wants to represent the country, our honor and glory, our homeland, the Bahamas.
Now we didn't forget about the bat. Here's Davis Jr. jumping in the pool.
Great work as always. Before we go, several Bahamian athletes are competing in the World Athletics Championships in Budapest, Hungary. Stephen Gardner is in the 400-meter semis tomorrow. That'll do it for sports today. I'm Tej Adderley.
Still ahead on our news tonight, former Prime Minister Perry Christie celebrating 80 years strong today. Arcandino Knowles tells the story of his life and legacy in the Our Bahamian series when our news returns. And all eyes on the tropics as there are 3 disturbances in the Atlantic. Greg is back with an extended look right after this quick break.
Welcome back to our news. Our Bahamian series, brought to you by the Independent Secretariat, continues to highlight extraordinary nation builders who helped to advance the country for the past 50 years and beyond. Well, tonight, our Candino Knowles highlights the life and legacy of the Right Honorable Perry Christie, who's celebrating his 80th birthday. Let's take a look.
The Right Honorable Perry Gladstone Christie was sworn in as leader of the opposition Progressive Liberal Party by then Governor General Sir Orville Turnquest on April 7, 1997, succeeding the late Honorable Sir Lyndon Pindling. 5 years later, Christie became the third Prime Minister in an independent Bahamas and Minister of Finance from May 2, 2002 to May 2, 2007. Christie secured another term in office from May 7, 2012 to May 11, 2017. Born in Nassau on August 21, 1943, Christie is the eldest son of taxicab driver Gladstone Christie and nurse Naomi Christie. He attended the Eastern Senior School in New Providence before going to University Tutorial College, London Inner Temple, and Birmingham University, from which he graduated in 1969. Christie, an attorney at law, is believed to have been the youngest Bahamian ever appointed to the Senate. Named senator by the late Prime Minister Pindling in November 1974, Christie held his Senate seat until 1977. Christie also served the country as Member of Parliament for the Centerville constituency and has held numerous other cabinet posts, including Minister of Health, National Insurance, Agriculture, Trade and Industry, and Tourism. He also served as chairman of the Gaming Board. During his first term in office, Christie established what would later become the world-renowned award-winning Urban Renewal Program, which was later reinvigorated in his second term as Urban Renewal 2.0. The crime-fighting initiative, still in existence today, focuses on issues such as poor housing conditions, unemployment, illiteracy, homelessness, and other social ills that contribute to crime and antisocial behavior. Over 1,000 families have benefited from a recently launched small homes repair program tied to urban renewal. Christie is also credited for his visionary outlook during his first term with an ambitious plan for anchor projects on every island. He also introduced value-added tax at a rate of 7.5% and the money raised from VAT slated to pay off national debt. He is also credited for regularizing the gaming industry. The former leader stepped down as head of the PLP in 2017 after 20 years of service to the party and more than 40 years in political life. Outside of his political career, he is also a founding member of the Valley Boys Junkanoo Group.
All right, thanks for that, Candino. And of course, to see that again, you can visit ournews.bs. We now turn to weather as we are watching the Atlantic. This is 3 storms were named in the past 24 hours. Tropical Storm Franklin, one of the 3 storms that forecasters are concerned about. Greg is back in the Weather Center with more. Greg?
Yeah, the tropics getting very busy right now. And of course, as you mentioned, Franklin is a bit of a concern for us. We will continue to track the system. It's presently just to the south, about 500 miles south of Coburn Town, that's Grand Turk, and a little over 500 miles to the south-southeast of Matthewtown, Inagua. This system is tracking slowly towards the west at 5 miles per hour with 50-mile-per-hour winds. We expect the system to make a sharp turn by tomorrow, and the system will head towards the south coast of Hispaniola. Should be crossing that sometime on Wednesday, but because of the slower speed now, we expect the system to emerge over the north coast of Hispaniola by Wednesday evening. So Wednesday evening, Thursday night is the time frame for the Turks and Caicos Islands. Alert is still being issued for the Turks and Caicos Island only, but we're asking residents across the southeast Bahamas to continue to monitor the progress of this system. And of course, we are approaching the peak of the season. This is the time, if you haven't done so already, to get your hurricane plans in place and make sure things are in order. Advisory posted for us across the chain of islands. Tightening pressure gradient, northeast to east winds 15 to 20 knots. They will be gusting high at times. Seas running 4 to 6 feet and up to 8 feet. They will be increasing across the southeast Bahamas by tomorrow. Your high tide will be at 11:51 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, increasing winds will bring some spotty showers across the area, but high pressure will dominate, and of course, we will continue to watch Franklin as it approaches the southeast Bahamas. That's a look at our weather. Back to you, Talia.
All right, thanks so much, Greg, and thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Talia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.